administrative money that you're saying is necessary?
There are a lot of things that the Medicaid system could do today and tomorrow to bend that curve. I have intentionally left those out of this bill because those are going to be shared objectives between the administration and the General Assembly. But if you look back to see what Medicaid has done in the past to bend the cost curve, some of those policies, and those initiated by this administration, have led to lower input costs on the per member per month rate. We want to build on that success. And there's a lot of directions we could go there, and I believe there's enough slack in the system to meet the goal that I've set out.
So piggybacking on Jim's question, so an individual case could, money could be saved in that instance by efficiencies at the state level, efficiencies in the delivery of the care, and better choices in terms of how people are being served.
All that and more.
But it's all left to the system to figure out how to.
No, it's a shared responsibility between the General Assembly and the administration. Right now, when we think about waivers or policy initiatives in the administration, they're, you would say, legislatively authorized in the budget, but we never check back to see how they're doing. This is where oversight becomes important, because as we've set these objectives, rather than be prescriptive and thou shalt type language, come back and tell me how it's going. We told you we wanted to get to point X. How close are we to point X? If we're not reaching point X, why aren't we reaching point X? And make adjustments on the way. To some degree, it's a continual budgetary and oversight process rather than a 24-month touch-and-go process.
Did you say that these numbers are going to be negotiated in managed care contracts?
That will be up to the administration. In our bill, we're talking about the growth rate between the General Assembly and the administration as the agreed-upon Medicaid growth rate. The Medicaid director and the administration will have the ability then to do whatever they need to do to get, within law, of course, at or below that target.
So the healthcare providers will not necessarily have to eat any additional costs above the 3%.
Absolutely. That's open to the administration, but to be clear, we're not talking about cutting. We're still allowing for growth in the Medicaid system. It's how you allocate that growth and the objectives that you allocate those growth dollars to that are making the difference.
So you're saying that we should expect to see changes in regulations and recommendations and pay rates and things like that from the administration. The bill has none of that.
I think that's an awful broad statement, to be honest with you. I wouldn't say that at all. I can't tell you for sure how those negotiations are going to go at this point. I do know that we've built a bill that allows those negotiations to happen. And we've agreed that 3% is a reasonable rate of growth over the next biennium. How well that takes shape is going to be a somewhat heavy lift. But again, that process has been in motion in the current Medicaid system. We believe it can be maintained.
So you mentioned the slack in the system. You've been investigating the system for years now. Where is some of the slack that you've seen, some of the moves you would expect to see made if this were passed?
Well, again, looking back, you've seen Medicaid make, I think, some decent strides in the recent history as a healthcare delivery system involving managed care. Has definitely bent the cost curve. We're talking about different ways of delivering care within Medicaid and having measurable objectives. At this time, whether it be health homes or other kinds of initiatives going on under Director Moody. But again, I would stand back from that statement slightly and say, we're looking for evidence-based models. We are looking for measurable results, and we're going to strive to meet those goals. And if something is unproven or not able to meet its objective, then it would be deleted or changed with another objective to meet that goal.
Can you just restate again the oversight process here in your bill? Does it create a separate committee that would oversee it, or would it just have, the directors of the department have to testify before the health and aging committees? Or?
Yeah, this, we call it JMOC, Joint Medicaid Oversight Committee. It is a joint legislative committee, probably most analogous to what folks would say is the Ohio Retirement Study Council, if you were to think of somebody that oversees a program. The director would come to the committee on a quarterly basis, as well as any other time if needed, to would work on policy. We would hear, obviously, from providers, advocates, other kinds of groups, so that we have a well-rounded approach to the Medicaid system. That would be the fundamentals. It no longer involves JCAR or the rules process as we had in an earlier version. This is a true oversight committee just for Medicaid.
And similar to the Retirement Study Council, would this body review pending legislation and say whether it would harm or hurt or help the system in terms of its goals?
Well, it is not set up to give an opinion or to stop or block legislation or rule. What it is the glue that binds the administration and the General Assembly together on the legislative commitment we have to the cost curve. If you wanted to propose something, for example, you would need to know how that proposal affected the cost curve that we agreed to. Those impacts would be measured potentially in GMOC.
Why did you choose